Uganda hosted also the 20th Northeastern African and Indian Ocean States Satellite Network NAFSAT Supervisory Board. That was in October. We also resolved to strengthen and modernize the NAFSAT network through continued regional cooperation. These are ongoing activities that we always do together with colleagues in the region. We revamped and got a more spacious Karibuni lounge. You should see how much the commendations that we have got for Karibuni all through. And I want to say that you don't get this facility anywhere in this region. This one I am telling you as a matter of fact, not only in this region, but even in some Western countries. I don't want to tell you the country I was in just a few days ago. They don't have a first and business class lounge that really is anywhere near Karibuni, the current Karibuni. So we want to thank Karibuni, we want to thank everybody who has participated in this. But we facilitated them to do that. And I want to encourage you to go there and see it. Again, you might think that you are in another place, not Uganda. The beautification of the VVIP facility in Uganda, the rehabilitation works were recently undertaken at the facility, which is used to facilitate the head of state and the visitors. Again, that is in Uganda, it is not anywhere else. The global trends. Now, I am calling it a global trend, and the first one is this separation, because we are actually bravely taking this responsibility to separate service provision from the regulator. This process of separation of the regulator and air navigation services provision from the management of airports has progressed with a roadmap presented by ICAO consultants to the authority, which was done in November. And we are doing this, of course, as a global imperative, of course, recommended by ICAO, to separate the regulation of civil aviation from the operation. But as maybe I give you the background. As you know, we have been together. We have had a regulator within civil aviation, which also operates airports and provides air navigation services. And because of the size of the industry and the kind of revenues that we have continued to have, we were unable to separate these two until now. Because we do not want to separate and then we have every entity to fail. So we have kept together with internal separation, which of course was also accepted by ICAO at that time. But the volume and the size of the aviation industry today has grown in such a way that this internal separation is not possible going forward. So we started activities ourselves. And the key word is orderly separation, because we do not want anyone to order separation and then we separate in a disorganized manner and then we kill the whole industry. Even as of now, Chief Guest, this separation has got to be done extremely carefully to make sure that the industry remains intact, every entity performs its mandate, especially regulatory mandate, and of course operation also remains an operation. It is not meant to separate and then each one goes their own ways without sustaining the other. So that is why we are extremely careful. And a three-phased approach was proposed, comprising of a legal and institutional phase, and operational and financial transition phase, and stabilizing and optimal phase. So even as we separate, we are phasing this separation so that we move in an orderly manner until we are able to see the stabilization that is mentioned in that bullet. The separation will systematically be accomplished while ensuring that the emerging UCAA and airport operator can effectively and sustainably perform their independent functions and sustain other critical aviation services. The separation will also eliminate conflict of interest, which is the key, really. They ensure stronger oversight and enhanced efficiency in service provision, as airport management will focus on prioritizing passengers, customer experience, and airlines compliance with international best practices and governance. That is what we are trying to do to achieve through the separation. We also have another sustainable aviation fuel. Of course, these are global imperatives that are being given to us to implement also in our area of operation. The final draft report for the Sustainable Aviation Fuel SAF feasibility study for Uganda was presented to the stakeholders by UCA in partnership with ICAO and the government of the United Kingdom in December 2025. We got assistance from United Kingdom. The study confirmed that Uganda has significant potential to produce SAF, that is sustainable aviation fuel, using rich biomass resources, an opportunity that could strengthen environmental protection, support energy security, and also unlock new socio-economic benefits for the country. Again, this has been presented to government because you can see the benefits go beyond what beyond UCAA. We are among the first African states to voluntarily join ICAO COSIA scheme in 2019, demonstrating the country's strong commitment to green aviation and climate resilience. The SAF program now moves into the next phase, developing national business case study that will guide full implementation of collaboration with key ministries, UNOC, and aviation stakeholders. Uganda remains committed to contributing to the global aviation decarbonization and positioning itself as a regional leader in sustainable aviation fuel. As I said, these are global trends that we enjoy actually to implement, and we are really moving on with the rest of the globe to do that. Uganda's combination of biomass availability, waste management needs, and strategic infrastructure provide a strong foundation for SAF production and development. With qualified technical potential well exceeding 300 to 850 million liters per year, certified pathways, and airport readiness, Uganda is positioned to progress from feasibility to first generation production within this decade. A robust policy framework, blended finance support, and coordinated leadership through National SAF Council will enable Uganda to become a regional SAF pioneer, advancing energy security, economic diversification, and climate-aligned growth in East Africa. Again, this is another important milestone. Uganda was elected to the International Civil Aviation ICAO Council for the 2025-28 term during the 42nd ICAO General Assembly. And at this juncture, I want to mention here that our representative to ICAO, CABS, is our keynote speaker. Please stand up for recognition. I know that I am doing that prematurely. His CV and other description will be presented by a competent authority during the time of his keynote address. I am not going to delve into those, but this was a very, very, very hectic moment for Uganda, I must say. And in this, I want to thank CABS here, our minister, our board, the management of UCA, and all other stakeholders, our embassy in Canada, for this really, really sustainable. And you are going to see the details what happened. Out of the 185 votes cast by the 192 member states, Uganda secured 155 votes. 155. Mark you, only 30 votes were not ours. Only 30. That shows you really our presence in the international community. And I want to thank you, Cubs, for this. Because many countries were getting 140, one what, those kind of things. Even very, very well-to-do countries, I'm not going to mention them here. But I was really, really very, very happy to see that whereas some people think people do not know Uganda, but you can see those are statistics which don't lie. As the highest decision-making board of ICAO, the Council is entrusted with setting international standards and recommended practices that govern the aviation industry and worldwide. And we are there at the setting of standards. He's there. He's our representative. So we are not just sending someone from Ethiopia, from where to go and represent us. We can summon him here. He comes, we tell him we want this. Go and represent us. Without going through any other person. So thank you very much, Cubs, for that. We are honored to take this responsibility and contribute to advancing safe, secure, and sustainable air transport globally. It is a vote of confidence in Uganda aviation industry and Uganda as a country. This is the picture. This picture was taken in Montreal after the voting. Of course, there were many people who wanted to be with us from other countries, but we say this is now Uganda. Don't joke around. There were many other people. We come to the future plans. One of the future plans, which I want to emphasize here, aviation works with global ratings in both audits in aviation safety, but also in security. As you know, we are currently, and that's I have not put these statistics here. We have now 72% we scored 72% in aviation safety and 81 point something percent in aviation security. But our main aim is actually to move 81 for security to 90%, but also move 72% to 85%. That is where we want to be. And we can't be there alone without the stakeholders. Because our oversight activities are always reflected on how we manage, we oversight the industry, and we can't oversight ourselves. We're oversighting the industry. So when we come to you in the near future, don't think we are harassing you. We are moving towards the target of scoring those targets, and that is really our main activities. In fact, when we separate, we are going to focus only on that, mainly on that. And that is really the plan we have, and I want to move with you, all of you, and Ugandans and the government system, that is what really we are aiming at. And what are the benefits of being scored higher in those audits? Because that is when confidence is developed in our aviation system. It is not about, it is about all these airlines you see coming in here are coming here because they are confident about our oversight systems and how safe they will be once they are in this country. So that is our key plan which we have. So when we come to you, please, so far you are responding to our messages, so far, and I want really to ask the people in this room to clap for our air operators, our air navigation service provision, because so far they are really trying within limited budgets. And but we shall request you to even do more than you have so far done in the coming, because we have a target to fulfill. Other future plans, the level of drone operations in Uganda is growing and presenting enormous economic opportunities to this country. However, drones pose a number of safety and security concerns which we need to observe. The current tripartite framework focuses on regulatory approval for operations in the segregated airspace, and efforts are underway to acquire an automated unmanned aircraft system management that will enhance monitoring of safety, security, and compliance of unmanned aerial vehicles and drones in the entire airspace. Can I maybe, if you don't mind, let me accept here that the technology of drones, of course, came to us. It found us unprepared, I must tell you. This is an admission, and I am sure even ICAO. Well, sometimes technology moves so faster than regulation. And we are always improvising. This tripartite framework that we used was actually an improvisation, because on one side it is security threat, but also we can't take away the innovation. Innovation is innovation, you must embrace it. On another side, it is safety related. So we had to put in a framework, an improvised framework that would manage the situation as it is. But actually, in actual fact, we are taken unawares. Not just us in Uganda, but even globally. But right now we are getting to address the matter, and we are really on top of it right now. And we can't guarantee that in the near future we are not going to get more challenges, especially technological advancement-based challenges. I have a challenge here of technology, which I'm talking about. We are scheduled to host the African Cup of Nations, AFCON, in 2027. Aviation structure will be key in facilitating the event, and several other international conferences that the country will host in 2026. One, the construction of Kidepo International Airport to boost tourism is being undertaken by the Sharjah Chamber of Commerce, who have signed a memorandum of understanding with them to launch the reviewed 20-year master plan, 20-year Entebbe International Airport master plan for 2026. We are trying to finalize a few things about the Entebbe master plan, but it is hinged on the future of the facilities of the future that we want to have, but also, of course, on the acquisition of enough land for those facilities. An air show expo is planned together. This is done together with the Pilots Association for for this coming year in 2026. The last one having taken place in 2023. Completion and operationalization of Kabarega International Airport in Hoima. Again, this is a facility that is planned to facilitate that AFCON. We've been working on it. We are almost in the areas of completion, but still, because we have to work with others, electricity and other people are still, of course, finalizing there. And you have seen, of course, that the stadium in Hoima is complete. So we don't want to be left behind by those activities. We want also to get an equivalent airport that will facilitate the tournament. These are airfield ground lighting system, the display system at Kabarega International Airport. Again, this is in Uganda, not even in Kampala, but in Hoima. Really, really a very good runway, I must tell you. You may have issues with other facilities, but don't have any problem with the main runway at Kabarega International Airport. This was very well planned. Government through the UCA has plans to upgrade Arua into a regional international airport. The planned scope covers a new paved runway, 3,500 meters long, and 60 meters wide, taxiways, apron, control tower, terminal building, fuel facilities, access road and car parks. The second phase shall include expansion of the terminal facilities, cargo center, and related infrastructure. I want to tell you about Arua. Arua is currently standing at the congruence, maybe the right word would be the hinterland, of several countries. There is South Sudan, Central African Republic, and a vast area of the Congo. In fact, I hope I am not being undiplomatic. There are many people from Congo who know Arua more than they know the other side. I can tell you that. So we are actually missing an opportunity of making Arua one of our big aviation facility for the benefits of an international passengers in that region. So we want to focus on it, and we want to really encourage the government system to come up and also help to expand it and do that. It has potential to be like Entebbe International Airport. The first phase of the project is estimated to cost 143 million US dollars, approximately 529 billion Uganda shillings. The sector is currently engaging the African Development Bank. Of course, they have shown interest, but we are still at an engagement level. The airport will initially be designed as a Code 4E airport with the biggest aircraft will be a B777 as a design aircraft. Usually when we are designing these airports, we have a maximum designed aircraft that can land there. And for now, we think that this 777 would be adequate for our purpose, but with potential to upgrade it later. The airport will initially be designed, yes, environmental social impact assessments has been, and feasibility studies in compliance with the public investment management system has been undertaken, and the Minister of Finance has been has sought for clearance of the funding from African Development Bank. So soon we shall embark on that development. We plan also to upgrade Kasese into the same size of airport, fully equipped with a paved runway, associated taxiways and aprons and other facilities. This is inspired by the need to promote cross-border traffic, tourism, and cargo transportation. Again, just to remind Ugandans that there is a lot of potential in that part of Western Uganda. Kasese is really a sleeping giant because of the physical features of that area and the big game that you find in those facilities. And it can also, of course, be connected to even the Mugahinga areas of the primates and others. So again, sleeping giant in that region. The master plan and details of engineering designs are completed. Land was acquired, and with existing, it could be merged with existing 168 hectares, and is fenced off. The China State Engineering Construction Company has shown interest, and we have signed an MOU. Of course, again, not yet concluded. The technical and financial proposals have been forwarded to Ministry of Finance for possible for finalize and funding arrangements. The upgrade of Guru as an international airport is being, of course, fast-tracked to facilitate AFCON. The project is expected to be undertaken by an Egyptian firm, Samco. Again, studies have been done, designs have been done, and what we are remaining with is the approval of the funding. And it is together with the road, I think, moving into Rira, connecting it to Akiboa Stadium in Rira City. This is what I was telling you about. Our harmonized building. This is the harmonized terminal building. The land side will look like this. This is just part of the land side. It's not the whole of it. And that is the bridge. This is the front view after harmonization. Please look at it very carefully. That's how it will look like. Of course, we still need to inject in some bit of money, as I told you. Harmonizing an existing building and building a new, you'd rather build a new one. But we have no way of throwing out what we have, especially when we continue to operate, to use it for our current operations. But we are trying very hard, and I want to thank the UCA team, the board, UCA team, and all other stakeholders who are really putting their head together to have this kind of thing. I can assure you, once we complete it, many people who left this country 2-3 years ago will not know that they have come back to Uganda. And I am assuring you on this, but of course the hurdle is to get enough of the funds. The future plans, we want to host the International Federal Air Traffic Controllers Association. Uganda will also host Association of African Aviation Training Organization. These are areas where we are very, very active on the globe, but also on the continent. The challenges here, and since I am addressing the country through our media platforms as well, Uganda is a landlocked country. Other people want to call it land-linked. Our future development plans, our future transport, the most reliable transport is actually air transport. We are trying to have discussions with government to make it one of the highest strategic objective of government as aviation. They have already started, of course, with the airline, but there are quite a number of things that we want to see done, because airline alone won't promote aviation industry on its own. It, of course, will be a major part of it. But we think that funding should be improved, especially to address our current master plans. And on Entebbe, we are somewhere. But of course, as you have seen what I have indicated higher in the last three, I think the last 3 slides, there is a lot to do with our upcountry aerodromes. Again, land in this country has become a problem. We must prioritize land for public investment, especially airport expansions, starting with Entebbe and elsewhere, in accordance with our master plans. Government debt, and here I want again to be clear on this. Sometimes I think even officials of government believe that maybe we get money from the consolidated fund. They come and pick facility. They are facilitated in our facilities, not knowing that what we do actually is the cost recovery. What we invest in this is actually what we charge is always proud back in these facilities. But some, and unfortunately government entities, think that these are mere government facilities where the consolidated budget will always come in. And because of that, there is a big government debt. The current debt stands at 166 billion Uganda shillings. Can you imagine it? If we go to this money, we would complete Kasese or Arua. Sometimes we are not saying this because we don't have money, but our services at times are taken for granted and they are not paid for a long time. Yes, we appreciate that some government departments are also not very adequately financed. But if we are to get all this money, we would do wonders in some of these facilities. 166.6 billion Uganda shillings is out there in government debts. And of course, there are efforts of government agencies to have the debt cleared, especially through our board and the Ministry of Works and Transport. But it had better be cleared sooner than later. Aviation needs to be mainstreamed at a strategic national level. This is what I was saying, so that we are able to see this sector, because of its multiplier effects to other sectors. Let me tell you, there is no tourism here without aviation. This one I can tell you with a lot of authority. If you want to know that, just go back to the time of COVID. The mere fact that the airport, the Entebbe International Airport was closed, there was absolutely no activity in the national parks. There was, I don't think that you saw anybody here. There was nobody even sleeping in these facilities, these hotels, except a few Ugandans who want to rest a little bit, but not so much. Even other activities like tour operators, they were all quiet, all silent. I can tell you that. So that actually, if nobody learns the importance of aviation at that time and air transport, should have known at that time. So you may not get this. You may not get this directly, but there are always indirect benefits that we see. We've tried, of course, to compute the contribution of aviation to the economy of the country. It is too enormous. With that, I want to thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I am sorry I may have taken long, but of course, activities of the year and the future plans and telling you the space we operate in and its constraints takes a little bit of time. I want to thank you so much for listening, and of course for coming here. I don't know why you had not recognized. Honorable Segona, please stand up for recognition. This is a very big stakeholder in the aviation industry, and we want to thank you for that. Even in the midst of campaigns, you can see he can really create some time and come here. We want really to appreciate your coming. Is there any other honorable member of parliament that is here that I have not recognized? You can see. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for that very detailed, I won't even call it an update because he has also given us great insight into what is yet to come. And occasionally reminding us that all this is happening in Uganda. Let's give another round of applause. Personally, I'm very excited with all the developments that are happening, especially in our aviation industry. Every time I visit Entebbe Airport, either to travel or to pick or drop somebody, I'm always wowed, and I see the level of excellence going up every day. And I think let's give them a round of applause. Come on, let's give flowers. Yes, give credit and honor where it is due. Okay, now allow me to invite our keynote speaker, who was mentioned but not introduced, and I would like to do the honors of doing so. For those of you who I don't know, that can be projected on the screen. If it is not possible, then allow me to read. It's almost a 3-page CV, but I am going to try and compress it to something that is palatable for now. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker is the current representative of Uganda on the Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, you can call it. Position he assumed after Uganda successfully elected, the election was in the 42nd session of the assembly that was held in Montreal. That was this year in September to 3rd. Yes, that was between September 25th and 23rd and 3rd October. Mr. Twijuche served as member of the Air Navigation Commission, call it ANC, from November 2016 to October 2025, a representative of Uganda ICAO to from November 2013 and a representative of Uganda on ICAO Council from 2008-2013. As you can see, I have some of it here. He began his aviation career in 1979, joined a national carrier as planning engineer trainee. After intensive professional training, he became planning and aircraft maintenance engineer in 1982 and was subsequently promoted to head of engineering development and planning section in 1986. Yes, that's 40 years ago. His responsibilities included developing and scheduling aircraft maintenance programs and assurance of continuing airworthiness in a cost-effective manner. In 1990, he was appointed manager for engineering development and planning with the mandate of ensuring that the airline effectively complied with all safety requirements. Now, this is the most that could be captured on these pages. I have more, but I'll leave it there. I also don't want him to feel like, hey, that is, you went on and on and on and on. However, when he makes his keynote speech, we'll give him his flowers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to invite the one and only current representative of Uganda on the Council of International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, Mr. Kabs Twijuke, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a round of applause. That is another accolade for Uganda, by the way. So, as you probably heard from the previous presentation, people wanted to come and take photos with Uganda, but the cameraman said no. This is for Ugandans only. Thank you so much. The podium is all yours, sir.
So let me start by thanking you all for coming. I also want to thank the guest of honor and representative for the minister, the board members. Of course, special thanks to the members of parliament, because you are probably one of the most key stakeholders in this game of aviation in Uganda. The board members of CAA, the management, the press, and all the stakeholders. You are all key players. And so I thank you for coming. I want us to thank the DG again, if you don't mind. And the reason is because he spoke very well and also spoke most of the things I was going to say, which is now therefore complicated for me because I don't know what to add to that eloquent speech. But nevertheless, I'll just fill up some gaps and hope it will be valuable for you. So the first slide. Oh, I don't have the other thing. Tell me how to use it. So next is So the first slide is obviously to thank CAA for organizing this event so that we can exchange ideas and be able to perhaps develop a plan moving forward on how we can sustainably develop air transport for our benefit. Okay, so briefly, oh no. So I will be speaking about ICAO because as you heard, that's where I am. But if time allows, I will also talk briefly about the importance of air transport and how we can promote its growth, and also highlight a few current and emerging issues at global level. So perhaps I believe this is what I understand. Each of you did some history at school, and you probably read about the Wright brothers as being the founders of aviation, or the first people to actually fly an aircraft. That happened on the 17th of December 1903. In other words, tomorrow will be exactly 22 years since the first aircraft flew. Now, from there, the air transport developed. It took some kind of evolution, but the evolution was a bit slow. Of course, people were very curious. They added on those foundational ideas of the Wright brothers and made some aircraft and tried to fly. But the rapid development of air transport actually took place during the world wars. And this is the reason. In the world wars, the militaries wanted to, of course, have aircraft that can go and bomb places, launch missiles and that kind of thing. But at the same time, also carry military personnel as well as hardware, tanks, and so on to the front lines. So there was urgent need to have aircraft that can do that. And of course, as you know, as DGCAA has already said, there is no other mode of transportation that can take you quickly to where you want to be. So air transport grew up rapidly during the World Wars. Now, as the World War II was ending, or as signs show that it would surely end soon, some wise people started sitting together and discussing how this abundance of technology, so many aircraft, a lot of experts, pilots and engineers and air traffic controllers and airports, all of them were in abundance. And so what would happen after the war? So they started meeting in places, but of course you can imagine it was not an easy thing to do. So agreements could not come for a very long time. But nevertheless, they didn't give up. Should I point it this way? Okay. So after so many protracted discussions, exactly on 7th December 1944, an agreement was reached. This agreement is called the Convention on International Aviation. And sometimes it is called also Chicago Convention because that's where the meeting took place. And this is exactly why we are here, to celebrate the signing of that Chicago Convention. Of course, Mr. Ruja already told you the celebrations began about a week ago or so. So every 7th December every year, beginning 2019, when ICAO was exactly 50 years old, now it is 80 years old, the world celebrates this day. And CAA Uganda has religiously celebrated this event for the last 30 years. So we need to clap for them. And please, every time you come here, please have a live and constructive discussion, exchange of ideas on how our air transport can be developed sustainably. And what were what is the structure of this? Of course, that convention has a lot of provisions. But the biggest outcome of that convention is the formation of the International Civil Aviation Organization, or in short, ICAO, others call it ICAO. In fact, sometimes people confuse it with IKEA, but the right name is ICAO in brief. And its objectives were to ensure that this industry, which for all the time had been used for mass destruction, aircraft were built to kill people, and that's what it was meant for all that time. So ICAO was supposed to transform the industry into a peaceful and economic tool that could help all the peoples of the world to socially and economically develop. And in 1944, remember, UN had not been formed at the time ICAO was formed in 1944. So in 1947, UN had been formed, and ICAO became a specialized agency of the UN system responsible for regulating international civil aviation. Now, how does it do it? Sorry. It does it by setting standards. And why set the standards? The standards are such that anywhere, whether in Uganda or USA, China, wherever it is, the international civil aviation develops in the same way. The aircraft is same, the airports are same, pilots are trained in the same way, the language, curriculum, everything, so that it doesn't matter wherever you are, there is that uniform and continuity of sorts, and that way you avoid confusion and you enhance safety and, of course, security and efficiency. So the standards are meant to do that. Now, the standards, sometimes when you read, for some of you who like reading about aviation, there are two types. There are actually more than two types. But we normally shorten it as SAPS, which stands for standards and recommended practices. If it is a standard, all countries must implement it. And if, for whatever reason, it cannot be implemented, that country must give a reason to ICAO why it is not implementing it and when it will implement it. The other one is recommended practice. This is something you do to make aviation better and for your own good as well. For instance, it could say, please use newer aircraft. Now, newer aircraft are not necessarily risky, but they will cost you more money to operate because they are old. They are not as efficient as new ones. But no one will force you to do that, although it is perhaps desirable for you to actually do it. So that is type number 2. Then we have what we call procedures for air navigation services. This is a little more detailed, but similar to a standard. I am avoiding going into details here. The last one is what we call guidance materials. Guidance materials are manuals which are produced by ICAO to help the states to understand the standards and to even give them ideas on how they can implement the standard. For instance, it may say the pilot must be competent to fly this aircraft, or before he's given a license to fly the aircraft. But you see, it is not just giving a license. You have to assess whether this pilot is actually competent, whether he has the skills to do his work. Now, as a country, you may not have sufficient or adequate expertise to make that assessment. So ICAO will write for you how you can implement that requirement that the pilot must be licensed and competent. It will give you how he will train, the curriculum program, how many hours he will fly before he can be tested for license. And even you hear sometimes captain, first officer, how many hours does it take to become a captain, for instance, on what type of aircraft? So all those are written by ICAO to guide the states on how to implement the standards. So that's what you can see, guidance materials and that. Now, ICAO does not stop there. It has to also make sure that it carries out an assessment regularly in terms of audits and I think you had the DG mentioning scores that Uganda got. I'll talk briefly about that. So they have to visit every country on an average of about each country visited about at least 5 years to see whether you are actually implementing the standards effectively, and they give you a score. That's what the DG was talking about when he said in safety we scored 72%. The average score is in about 69. In fact, we could have scored much more, but at that time there was a transitional arrangement which was still going on, and there was the appropriate legislation had not been put in place. I will talk about it a little bit. And you also had, in terms of security, Uganda got 80%, actually 80.6% in terms of security performance. So, and again, that's way above the global average. So these audits, scary as they are also useful. They actually identify the weaknesses which are in this air transport system that may become a risk in terms of safety or security, and then I highlight them for every state, and then the state will do what we call formulation of corrective action plans, which ICAO will evaluate, and when it is appropriate, ICAO will endorse it. The corrective action plan is intended to fix all the gaps that were identified during the audit. Of course, for the accountants, you know the Auditor General's report, when he sends it to the group, to the organization, it has to put out a plan to address whatever weaknesses in the system have been identified. So that's what CAPS stand for, Corrective Action Plans. So ICAO also, what it does is to help the states. It is not just like a watchdog and setting standards and coming and giving you marks. It also helps you to develop the capacity to even think beyond the standards of ICAO. And I have highlighted some of the areas where Uganda, as a member state, has benefited. Solot Flying School, which you all perhaps know about, was actually built by ICAO, free of charge for the East African countries. CAA, before CAA, there was Directorate of Civil Aviation. Everything was really mingled up. ICAO provided a project of about $10 million to restructure the aviation industry in Uganda, and that culminated into the establishment of Civil Aviation Authority in 1991. And of course, there is continuous training. ICAO sends its experts to every country to coach the national experts on how to maintain safety, security, efficiency, capacity, and of course, sustainability. So it's a continuous process. And what if you failed to comply with these standards? It's not a position you want to be in. If you fail, it will be difficult for other states to work with you in as far as aviation industry is concerned. So they start by imposing embargoes or restrictions on flights between your country and their territories. You probably have read, those of you who like reading, Air Tanzania is not allowed to fly into Europe. It's because of this perception or situation that I'm talking about. So Europe doesn't think that the oversight mechanism of Air Tanzania is good enough to allow it to fly there. So they stop your airlines from going to their territories. And if it becomes worse, they also stop their own airlines from coming to your own country. And now I don't have to say this. You can imagine the situation you'll be in when no airline comes to Entebbe, for instance, and no airline goes out of Entebbe. You heard DG talking about how difficult and protracted the process was during the time Uganda Airlines was starting the flights to UK. It was very difficult. And I want to tell you, perhaps this for your happiness, if CAA had failed the audit, it would have been impossible for Uganda Airlines to start those flights. And I think, therefore, we should give an applause to CAA because by performing very well in those audits, UK was able to allow Uganda Airlines to fly into its territory. And the UK uses the same oversight mechanism as the whole of Europe or EU states. And therefore, Uganda Airlines will not go through the same hassle if it wants to go to other countries in the EU system. So then how has ICAO performed? Remember, the objectives and aims of ICAO were spelled out in the Chicago Convention. And the overall objective was that this industry, which has been used to kill people, should be transformed into a useful, peaceful, and economic tool. Now, that ICAO, and you can test, I mean, you fly all over the place, peacefully making money because the industry is doing well. So the industry has enhanced peace among nations and connected significantly countries, and connected the countries all over the world. I don't know who said this, whether it was Roger or the DG. It was the DG. He said, if there is no air transport, tourism is completely stopped. In fact, he gave the example of COVID, and you know what happened. So it contributes significantly to GDP. Now, DG, you are disturbing people. And this is for you. I heard you say that it is complicated to make an assessment of how much directly and indirectly air transport contributes to our GDP. That must be done. It's the best way to convince the members of parliament that they must put emphasis and priority on this industry because they must know how much it is contributing. And I think we can get a rough idea. Surely it has to be done. Unfortunately, it is complicated, yes, but it has to be done. It creates jobs. And we will talk about that a little bit. It is obviously the easiest means of connectivity within the region, within Africa, and of course, around the world. Some people could argue that you can actually get to Australia with other means, railways and ships, but it will take you probably 2 months to get there. So you cannot compare. And in terms of disasters, pandemics, The DG has already touched on that. If it had not been for air transport, in fact, COVID would not have been eradicated. You know why? Because you needed vaccines. There is no other means they would have come other than air transport. In fact, we had to even develop special standards so that vaccines, which must be transported with a lot of ice, could go on the aircraft. We don't allow ice on the aircraft, but in this case, we allowed aircraft to carry ice because it was the only way they could transport vaccines. So you can see how important this industry is, even in terms of other situations. Overall, air transport is not only the most reliable and most fastest, but it is also the safest. If you want to know, and of course this is available to you if you read, how many people die on Ugandan roads and how many people die in aviation in Uganda, you'll get what I mean. Maybe 10, 20,000 people, Ugandans, actually die on the roads. I think in the last 10 years, we have not had deaths in aviation in Uganda, except maybe I can't remember. I believe not. So let's move on. Why do we have to regulate air transport? Actually, air transport is probably the most regulated industry or system in the whole world. The next one, I think, is World Health Organization, medicine. But this by far is the most regulated. And the reason why it is most regulated is because of the history that I have talked about. It started as a tool for killing people, weapons. So it has this benefit of helping us to grow socially and economically. But if it is not properly managed, it also has the propensity of being misused or abused and start killing people again instead of helping them to live a better life. So you have to regulate it so that it is never abused again, hopefully. It fosters friendship and trade, and the DG, I don't want to, some of these the DGs spoke better than me on, and I really just need to endorse it. He just touched on and said, Bliss, Kawale Airport will be used by AFCON, yes. But remember also World Cup, Olympics, and so on. So this air transport has actually done a great job in connecting people. And there is no way you are going to be friends with people you don't know, you have never met, you can't talk to. So we have to give kudos to ICAO, because now the industry is playing that role of making better friendship among the nations of the world. And we have talked about the disasters, why we need it, and need it operating safely, operating securely, efficiently, and regularly, as well as sustainably, because in the case of emergency or disasters, we will need it. By the way, we can talk about the details on how this can be done for some of you if you are interested. So, importance of air transport is it's an enabler of economic development. I think the DG did very good job of that. But perhaps to remind you, without air transport in Uganda, the flower industry would not be there. The fresh fish that is exported out of Entebbe would not be there. Or high value goods like medicines, vaccines, and that kind of thing. Tourism, I think he really talked so much about it, and I don't want to go back to it. We take it as it is. Government services, And he talked about the drones. And we shall talk about it a little bit later in passing. But you know, there are communities, Ugandans, but this I speak for all other countries. Very few countries have access to remote areas in the world. Uganda, obviously, there are remote areas where you can't reach. If some lady is having difficulties delivering or someone has got a heart attack, the only way you can get there is by helicopter, although it's also not very well developed here. But air transport has the potential to play that role. When you want to extend essential services to your people in these remote areas where the roads are almost difficult, and understandably, you can't have a road everywhere. Islands, how to get to everyone on the island. DG, these drones will play a big role there, but I'll talk about it a little more. But delivering of services, the airline can actually, the air industry can help the government do that. Landlocked countries, Uganda, again, the DG talked about that. But also there are small state countries around the world. The Fijis, you hear about St. Kitts, I can mention many of them, Jamaica's, Bahamas, and that kind of thing. The only way you get there is by air. Of course, you can also get there by ship, but again, it won't be in time. So, importance of the question, I had a question in 2019. We had a meeting here, and journalists were asking, why should the government spend money in this industry, which is for the rich? I believe some of you may also hold the same perception that air transport is for the rich. But it's a wrong perception. And the reason it is that perception exists, that debate has been going on. Should we put money in Uganda Airlines, or should we put it in hospitals, or should we put it? And I think we need to do a bit of education so that people understand. So this is why the industry is important for the poor more than it is for the rich. The flower industry, owned by one man, of course very rich, he needs air transport. But how many workers are on that farm? The people who plant the flowers, the people who weed the flowers, the people who pick the flowers, the people who pack the flowers and then load it before the rich man takes it to the airport. How many are they? Very many. But unfortunately, those people do not know where the fish, maybe they don't know where the flowers go eventually. They don't know the connection. That's why I'm saying we need to continue to exchange ideas in this forum, especially the media, on how the air transport contributes to poverty alleviation. The fishmongers, the rich man is not going to go to water looking for the fish. There are people who are sleeping on the lake, sometimes just in their pants, catching the fish at night and bring it to the factory. They don't know where it goes. They don't know how it gets there. If you ask them, should we give money to Uganda Airlines? They will say, no, we are suffering. Give us the money, our money. But what they don't know is that if the airline stops, their fish won't go. And they will be poorer. The workers. So I can continue. The story is long. I can continue with workers in hotels and so on, those who wash the linen, those who serve the guests, and so on. They don't know. But air transport is just a chain, a component in the value chain of our lives. You remove it, a lot of things will go wrong. So if you have the same question now, I hope I have convinced you that actually majority of the beneficiaries of this industry are the poor people. but they don't know that. If they were to vote, they would vote against the air transport. So you have to tell them that story. Some of you have read about the Sustainable Development Goals of UN. There are 17, and air transport contributes to 15 of them. We can have that conversation later. But I have also some figures for you. In the whole world, air transport contributes 4 trillion, sorry, where is this? Yeah, so 4 billion, not 4 billion, sorry, it should be trillion, to global GDP. It also employs 87 million people, directly and indirectly. Now, what about Uganda's position in the global aviation community? I think the DG also has already done that. But just to remind you that Uganda joined the ICAO, which was formed in 1944. We joined it in 1967 and has since that time, and I think this was eloquently given to you by DG, Uganda has fulfilled its obligations as a member state. Safety and security performance is very good. That's why our airlines are allowed to fly wherever they want to go. Excellent standing in the global community. You heard that Uganda was elected with very good votes. In fact, Uganda was the best, had the highest vote in Africa. And we have also had Ugandans serving ICAO in different positions. And I think this is again another contribution, another to our image. We had our board chairman, late Balidawa. He was regional director in Nairobi. He did a wonderful job. Even today, when I tell them I'm from Uganda, the first thing they ask me, do you know Mr. Balidawa? Yes, I know him, but he's gone. Later on, Barry Kashambo, Mr. Barry Kashambo took over that role much later, of course. We have people like Milton Tumsime. He was one of the, he has just left ICAO, but he was one of the best inspectors ICAO ever had. In fact, he won personal awards 3 times. And then we have our own Mr. Opolot Andrew, who is still with ICAO in the legal department. ICAO. So ICAO audits, I think the DG also touched on it, but I want to just highlight one point. In the safety audit, we got 72%. Now, and of course, when ICAO is auditing, it looks for specific elements. Now, one of the elements is called accident investigation. You can call it organization, agency, whatever. Originally, it was under CAA. And in 2016, when we got an ICAO audit, that area of accident investigation got 67%. Now, of course, the idea would have been it should improve. So with the audit that came in 2023, it should have gotten more marks, but it fell from 67 to 20%. Why? The reason is it had just been separated from CAA. And every time you make significant changes, the law must be amended. But the law had not been amended. And once we don't have the law, you also don't have the regulations. So when they came, they found, yes, good. The unit has been separated from CAA, but that's it. So it was worse than when it was under CAA. But it is very easy to fix. And some work led by our minister, supported by CAA, is being done. Even if this area of accident investigation had just scored the previous score, CAA would be at 85%. So in fact, this is unfortunate because one bad apple made all the apples in the basket lose. But again, because the score was already very good, even if that 20% created a dent, we still remained at 72. So that's why the DG is saying CAA and all the collaborators, and I will mention them, are doing everything possible so that by the time the next audit comes, this AIG is at 70 something, and the overall score will go towards 90. So we are good, and we thank CAA and government. In fact, when the auditors came, even the president got to know about it and endorsed it. The minister was personally involved, and the board. And so I think you should clap for yourselves because this is a great achievement out there. Now, so what do we need to do? Before you get to know what you need to do, when ICAO comes, it has 8 elements that they look at to determine whether you're good or not good. The first is the law. Does the law identify which organization is responsible for safety, ensuring safety, security? Yes. Has it given it sufficient powers to do that work? Yes or no? That's one. Then they look at regulations. Regulations are for implementing the acts, but they are also for implementing the ICAO standards. So every time there is an amendment in the act, or there is a new standard from ICAO, the regulations must be amended. They look at that. Then they look at the organization. How is this agency responsible for safety and security oversight arranged? And that also speaks to what the DG was talking about. Do you have clear separation of regulations and operations? Of course, you could say yes. In our case, that is actually not the case. And that's why he was emphasizing separation, which I don't want to talk about. But they will also look at other departments, how they are arranged. If you are good, you are good. And I will tell you, okay, in terms of the act, we are good. We are not good. And I think the member of parliament here, it would be good for him to know that we shall soon go to them to ask them to amend the law, especially to include the accident investigation. The regulations, we are good. That is a matter between CAA and the minister. The organization, not very good because of the need for separation. Then the next area is to check whether the people manning that organization are properly trained. How are we? That is a continuous process because things are changing. DG talked about the drones. The drones are going to come. You are going to have to manage them. But there are new things. Innovation is changing every day. So training must continue. That area was not very problematic. Then there is another area. Do these people have the things to use to do their job? That is area number 5. Tools like computers, guidance material, when you go to check an airline, what exactly do you look for? A checklist. Check this, check this, check this. This is good, this is no good, this is. Now, the other one is, how do you license operators, airlines, technical staff, and all that, certification? There, we did well, and we had a very good example, Uganda Airlines, which had just been certificated. The next area they look for is, after you have licensed these people, the airlines, the pilots, other technical personnel, do you have a mechanism to continuously make sure that they don't lose their competencies, that they are exactly in the same situation when you gave them the license? You have to show that you have a program that does that. And by the way, remember, in the Chicago Convention, a country is responsible for safety of aviation for all aircraft in its space, whether they are its aircraft or foreign aircraft. So when foreign aircraft come to Entebbe, our inspectors are supposed to regularly have the program to inspect them, and if they find a problem, they should not allow them to go back. They should hold them and send messages to their counterparts. If you allow a foreign aircraft to leave with a known risk and crashes, you are held accountable. And the last one, when you go to those airlines licensees and you take stock and you find gaps, how do you make sure that those gaps are fixed? Can you show us evidence? So, in a nutshell, earlier on I told you, after the audit, you develop a corrective action plan, and it specifies all the activities you need to do to get all the weaknesses fixed. So ICAO has a safety corrective action plan, a security action corrective action plan already filed with ICAO, and they are systematically going with it. And when ICAO comes, that will be one of the elements they will be scrutinizing. But for now, the biggest element that we have, where we have problems, is the law, the act. Unfortunately, CAA cannot do this alone. In fact, cannot do it alone. It can only propose. This will require the collaboration of Parliament, collaboration of the Ministry of Attorney General, and of course, the Minister. So I hope that by the time the next audit comes, that will also be fixed. Promoting the sustainable growth of aviation. Earlier on, of course, the DG again talked about the hotels. It doesn't matter, DG. You can have that beautiful airport, and I love it, honestly. I am proud to be a Ugandan looking at that airport. But even if you paint it with gold, if the tourism sector is not doing well, you are not going to get people to come. They don't come to see the airport. They enjoy the comfort. They like the ambience, but that's not the main purpose. It's just a facilitator. So tourism, hotel, and hospitality have to do their work. And the DG was talking about the growth of air transport. Those are global forecasts. Air transport right now carries 4.6 billion passengers a year. We are at 2.2 million. And in another 25 years to come, it will triple to 12.4 billion passengers. And it is within which the DG was talking when he said we will be here in 10 years' time. We will have 10 million. I can't remember how many years you put it. So it's wonderful. It's a good potential. But how do we tap into it? We have to have the infrastructure that DG was talking about. The airports must have the capacity to handle the 10 million. Right now, in place, you have 3.5. So you will have now to start thinking how you will handle 10 million passengers in your airspace. So the government, members of parliament, executive ministries have to make sure that there are appropriate strategies and policies to ensure that investment in infrastructure or funding in infrastructure is done. And then, of course, we cannot forget the main key element, which is the human resource. It has to be continuous development. And what I am saying in the last bullet there is that this is not a job for CAA alone. Remember that aviation is only a component of the value chain for our social and economic well-being. It's just a player with other players, and the players are you. So you have to make sure that you become part of that collaboration or collective responsibility to ensure that aviation plays its role, as you also make sure that other sectors that work together with it are doing their part. So, of course, I mentioned that you have to strictly comply with international requirements, or if you like, standards that are set by ICAO. That DG and his team can lead. But even there, they need other players. I see here immigration people. Those help the facilitation or capacity, but as well as security. I see security agencies. You have to work with CAA in order to ensure that those areas are fixed and we can give a good passenger experience without necessarily creating security risks. Entebbe Airport. DG, you have done your part. The buildings are good, capacity has improved. We need to transform Entebbe International Airport into an international hub. And this is critical. You cannot depend on a single destination traffic. It's not much. I'll give you an example. Qatar Airways. You all know Qatar Airways. Qatar Airways carries about 36 million passengers every year. And only 3 million actually are going to Doha to do whatever they want to do. The rest are going through Doha. Ethiopia is another example. Most of the people Ethiopia Airlines carries don't actually stay in Addis Ababa. They are going through many places, from Ugandans and so on. You know that. So that is the essence of an international hub. In terms of economy, I can bet on average, a passenger through Doha, for instance, will leave about 100 on average to $200 in that airport on food, chains for the wife or niece, or a phone. But let's say 100. 31 million passengers are going through there. They are not coming to Doha, but they are going through, and they leave $100 each on average. That is $3.1 billion just because Doha is comfortable. Qatar Airways is a good airline. People who are going to America go through Doha just because of those two elements. So if we position Entebbe International Airport as a hub, those are the economic spin-offs that we can benefit, and they come into this system. So when you are, for instance, evaluating Qatar's contribution, Qatar Airways' contribution to the Qatar GDP, you don't only consider the cash they collect. In fact, probably they collect maybe $10 billion, and probably they spend $11 billion. So you can make a decision whether you want to close it or to support it. But remember, because it is there, you are getting 3.1 billion through another channel because of it. So if they asked for $500 million to subsidize shortfalls of operation, would you or would you not give it? And that's what you have to consider when, as DG mentioned, supporting Uganda Airlines is critical. Uganda Airlines may be losing. I will tell you, a tourist from London coming here for 2 weeks pays a ticket, depending when he buys it, of about $800. That's what Uganda Airlines will collect. He will go to Africana. I don't know, but I imagine it's about $200 per night. 10 days, 2,000. Africana will pick 2,000. Uganda Airlines will pick only 800. And of course, they will pay for landing fees. They will pay for flight. They will pay for fuel. By the time they are actually talking, maybe if they are lucky, they have only 100. But Africana, if they reduce the move all they probably have at least 1,000. So you see, that's why this industry needs to be supported, because its contribution is not in cash flow. It is in economic development. I had, if you allow me, I'll tell you what CAA did in this value chain. When CAA was established, one of the things was we must market Uganda. We must market Uganda to the world, because that's the only way you are going to attract people. We must market Uganda for exports. That's what we produce better, fish and flowers. So we decided we will have a collaborative link with UTB, Travel Board. And when we went there, they didn't have much. So I remember we went to the board was saying, but we are not tourist board. There is tourism board. Why are you doing this? We said, if tourists come, they will pay airport service charge. The more they come, the more we will benefit. But also, if they come, Uganda as a country will benefit, and more Ugandans will fly. So they agreed and gave us money. We produced a film called New Uganda. That was 1992. Because we wanted to showcase how New Uganda was after the liberation. And that film competed at Berlin International Tourism Conference and actually got a silver medal. But it was produced purely by CAA. And that's really what I'm calling collaboration. We wanted to know, who are these people who are exporting and what are they exporting? I saw a man called Kasozi here, Manager Economic Regulations. I remember when he got recruited, his job was to go physically to customs every day and pick copies of web bills so that we can study and see what is actually being exported through Entebbe Airport. And we agreed that we are going to follow the biggest 6. And at that time, of course, flowers, fish, vegetables, fruits, vanilla, and I can't remember the 6th. And we started every day. Kasozi brings the way bill, we pick. we started developing our statistics. Now, guess what? IDEA. You know, there was a project called IDEA. It stands for Developing IDEA, Investment in Developing Agriculture, Export Agriculture. It was being funded by USAID. USAID, they came to us and said, we want to know, we want to have some idea how many tons of fish and flowers are being exported. Because we have gone to UBOS, they don't have. We have gone to customs, they don't have. And we hear you might have something. We told them, we just follow this. They said, aha, that's what we want. You know what they did? They gave us the first color printers and computers. I think there's another manager for strategic planning. He was the one running it. So the thing I am making clear, I'm trying to make clear here, is that the promotion of air transport is not an isolated thing. It must be done collectively with the rest of other players. Role of the media. I have put there, and I know I'm trading on a very dangerous ground, but please listen to me. Truth must be told, but appropriately. In one of our promotions for growth of tourism, we brought here the Secretary General. CAA brought him, Secretary General of World Tourism Business Council. When he came, we gave him a nice car with someone to guide him. They went all over Uganda because we wanted him to see how beautiful Uganda is. Now, in the evening, after he had finished the trip, we organized a talk with tour operators and journalists. And this is what he said. He said, you people, sometimes you are not fair to yourselves. He was a Spanish, he was from Spain. In Spain at that time, they had a rebel group called ETA. And it was bombing people on trains. In fact, it was eventually it was disarmed in 2010 or 2013. And it was big chaos. And he said, when I was going through your country, I passed by a place and they said, this is where so many people were killed in a church. Chibwetere story. And the way the media portrayed the thing was, I almost decided not to come. But when I was in that area, it was so calm that I couldn't believe that that's the place where the media was focusing. So he said to us that in Spain, when ETA bombs people, the media, the police, of course, will get into action, security, etc. So the media will tell a story. Today, there was a bomb. So many people were killed and others injured. But the situation is under control. Now, even business has resumed. But in Uganda, we tell a story. Chibwetere has killed people. Stop. Is there nothing that was done to normalize the situation? So that's what I mean. Tell the full story. Yes, of course, people have come, bad people are there, they have done bad things, but maybe something has already been done. Give the comfort that people can still visit Uganda after that thing. Lot of CAA we have talked about. We have talked about next audits, what we should do. But one other thing, really, apart from promoting tourism, the flowers and fish, vegetables and fruits is where we have a huge advantage over other countries. And there should be a strategy of all people, of course, policy and lawmakers, plus we stakeholders promoting those two industries. Current and emerging, the DG has already talked about the need for decarbonization. But I have also given you a figure. For those of you, the journalists who sometimes like figures, right now, aviation emits 940 million tons of carbon dioxide. And that's what we are trying to remove from happening, because you know what it will do. Bad rains, landslides, temperatures uncontrolled, all of those will happen. And you see, I have also put AeroTag. AeroTag stands for long-term aspirational goal of 2050 of net carbon zero. Net zero carbon dioxide. What it means is the aircraft will be improved, they will burn less fuel, therefore less carbon dioxide. Even the routing where the aircraft go through, wherever they are heading to, will all be taken into consideration. There is COSIA, which the DG talked about, but and then of course the SAFs. What it means is that as the air transport is growing, you expect emissions to grow, but this aspiration aims at making sure that everything's done, including SAF, so that the growth of air transport does not necessarily lead to growth of carbon emissions. That's what it means. Those who are interested, we can talk about it in another time. But one other thing the DG also talked about was that Uganda is potentially able to produce and sell SAFs. Now, why? Because transporting SAFs is very difficult. They must be produced where they are consumed. Otherwise, the transportation costs will be too high. So, for our airlines to stay in business, we must be able to produce that SAF. SAF stands for Sustainable Aviation Fuels. And the world there, many financiers, banks, and so on, are ready to finance projects of states that are feasible, that can actually produce SAFs. So what we need to do is to position ourselves. Already, the feasibility study shows that we are able. Let us go ahead and make sure that that is exploited. Now, then strengthening Civil Aviation Authority. When ICAO comes, by the way, it is coming to audit the state. But ICAO, rather Civil Aviation Authority, is the national agency designated by Uganda as the authority for aviation. So that's why they audit CAA, but in fact, they are auditing Uganda. So CAA must be strengthened, and DG talked about removal of operational responsibilities so that they can really focus on complying with international requirements. I am happy the system of separating those other things that must be separated began in 2022 when the accident investigation, which I talked about, was separated and taken to the ministry. Currently, the process is about separating Entebbe Airport, and then in 5 to 6 years, air navigation services, I think, would be good candidate to separate. This process should be supported and completed as soon as possible. Why? Because of the anticipated traffic growth, you need appropriate airport infrastructure. And the sooner you separate and give it to people who know how to run business, commercial business, the better, so that they can quickly start putting in place the infrastructure that is going to meet the increased traffic. Yeah, so the other one I had already talked about. In the medium term, I don't know, because this is for lawmakers and policymakers. We are going to produce fuel from Blissa. I think it would be important for civil aviation to be included in that concept, so that there is aviation fuel, because the SAFs are going to take a long time. In the meantime, if we get fuel for aviation at Entebbe Airport, two things will be right. One, our airlines will have a cheaper service and therefore able to compete. And also our aspiration to have air transport as an international hub will be enhanced. New entrants. The DG talked about the drones, but it is the right terminology is advanced air movement, AAM, which includes unmanned aircraft. Some of them are very good, as I had said. Many cities have now started actually doing it. I was in China recently, and we were in a park. They sent us our lunch in the park from the restaurant. But also, it is good for our tourism. People can go and see places. It is also good for our emergency and medical supplies to remote areas and also our islands. So I think we cannot wait. We have to make sure that we are prepared for them, because they are already in operation, but we are not ready. That's why I put it there. The other area which is important is cybersecurity. Originally, people used to talk. The air traffic controllers would talk to the pilot. Please turn left, go up, whatever level. Now, the world of aviation has been digitalized, almost all of it. The computers are talking together. The computer in air traffic control services is talking with the computer in the aircraft and telling it, hey, turn left or turn right or go down or approach, whatever. Because of that, there is a problem growing up, and that is the cybersecurity. There is a tendency right now, it is happening, where the signals from, of course, satellites are jammed, and now the pilot doesn't know what to do. But there is also another phenomenon called spoofing. Spoofing is where you don't jam, but you deflect the right signal and you put in your own signal, so that this aircraft thinks it is going to Entebbe, but in fact, it is going to Central African Republic. And the pilot won't know because the aircraft is working normal. So those are going to remain a big challenge as the aircraft goes more and more digitally or computer connected. And then the last one is closely related, but is not aviation. Tourism. We all know that Uganda is well endowed. So we have a huge potential. But if we do not take measures to aggressively market that endowment, we will remain where we are because we are not exploiting that potential. So that if you promote tourism, you'll promote also obviously aviation, you'll promote hotels and hospitality, but you'll also promote other spin-offs. I believe perhaps that should be a thank you. I probably have to. I have taken much of your time. I hope you learned one or two things about this. And if you are interested in further detailed discussion, I'm available, I'm reachable. You can get my contacts anytime you wish, and we can discuss. But I only love being positive. please, when we are discussing, I want to hear ideas on how we can help our country develop through air transport. And then I will be very happy to engage. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.
Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Cubs has given us, this is one of those keynotes that makes you feel like you have now understood the aviation industry or that you have gotten up to speed with the rest of the world in terms of aviation. I love the way he handled the issue of health and safety and also the legal regime for aviation internationally, which was very, very good and very good insights there. And of course, he mentioned so many other things. Like he said, he's available in case you have any additional questions or inquiries that you'd like. I don't know that your presentation is shareable, but yes, even that is also an open. I think it is shareable. Very good. Later on at some point, I'll probably invite you to join us here in a panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, before I invite our next speaker, I just wanted to quickly touch base with the stakeholders who are here to give special mention and to also thank you for participating in no particular order. Please allow me. Do we have representatives from Emirates Airlines? Emirates? Yes, yeah. Let's give them a round of applause. Just recognizing stakeholders who are here today. Asante Aviation, are you here? Asante Aviation, yes, they are here. Very well done. Do we have Qatar Airways? Qatar, are you here? Represented, very ably represented. Well done, Qatar. Salute you. Uganda Airlines, are we here today? Uganda Airlines representative. Wonderful. Well done, well done. Uganda Wildlife Authority, are you here today? You see, very good. When we open our borders, like you've had all the examples, if the people come to the country and they can't go beyond, if there's nothing to see, we can't really take or, harvest their dollars, so to speak. And you're here. Syscot, are you here today? Syscot, very good. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have representation from the Ministry of Works and Transport? Representation, yes, they are here. Well done. Like I said, this is a stakeholders breakfast, and I believe that everybody in this ecosystem is available. Do we have a representative from the Uganda Professional Pilots Association? Representative from... Wonderful. Wonderful. Turkish Airlines, are you here? Turkish Airlines, Turkish? Turkey. Okay. Maybe they had a flight today. I don't know. Okay. Of course, immigration. How can we talk about, yes, immigration is well represented. Well done. Well done. We have Nation Media Group. Now we're talking media partners. Nation Media Group, are you here? Nation Media, they were here earlier, in that corner over there. KLM, are you here today? KLM representative, yes. Wow, this is very beautiful. I love these stakeholder engagement meetings because when we sit here, we don't sit as competitors. We sit as people who are captains of the ship. And at the bottom, there's competition. At the top is collaboration. So over here, we're at the top. Very good. Yes, Bar Aviation, are you here? Bar Aviation, represented very well. Very good. Uganda Media Center, are you here? Uganda Media Center, representative. Uganda Media Center. Stepped out? Oh, stepped out briefly. Okay. Uganda Aviation School, are you here? Uganda Aviation School, well done. They're here. Entebbe Municipal Council, what would we do without you? Everything aviation somehow is based in Entebbe. So you're very, very key stakeholders. Menzies Aviation, are you here? Menzies Aviation, yes. Round of applause. Hortifresh Association, are you here? Hortifresh, oh yeah, very, very ably represented. I don't know which tour and travel company that I have left out. Thank you. Thank you. Imagine, thank goodness we're not live on television. That was going to be a very awkward moment. Sorry, too close. One, two. Okay, I'll use this one here. This is over trimmed, so just reduce volume on this microphone. Thank you. Okay, still recognizing our stakeholders who are here. AirServe, are you here? AirServe representative. AirServe, are you here? Very good, very good, very, very, very good. Have I left out anyone? Uganda Association of Tour Operators, are you here? Uganda Association of, wonderful, very well represented. If I have not mentioned you, it is not that I have not seen you. It's just that I have quite a list, quite a long list here that I'll keep checking on occasionally and making mention of all the stakeholders who are here. So please don't leave before I have made mention of you. The Deputy Mayor of Entebbe Municipal Council is here as well. A round of applause for our Deputy Mayor who's right there. Thank you, sir. By the way, Entebbe is a very peaceful community. I don't know whether it comes because you have aviation there but there's something about, there's a certain peace and calm, which you don't usually get in Nansana. It's like, yes, it is, if you know what I mean. Okay, no offense to those who reside in Nansana, it's just, Nansana is Nansana. Okay, it is our special place of tourism. Okay. Right, we have QR codes at our table. QR codes at our table. Now, those serve this purpose. When we have the panelists, when the panelists come, or if you have any question during this session that you believe should be answered or should be attended to, burning question, because we cannot move around with the microphone. However, we can start populating our Q&As such that when we bring our panelists here, we pick the ones which are, you know, top of the food chain, those which have to be answered hot off the press. Right. On that very same note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to move on to our next and I would say pretty much final speaker this morning, who is not a stranger to any one of us here. He is the Deputy Chief Justice Emeritus, Dr. Stephen Kavuma, who is also the chairman of the board. He's here in another capacity as well. He's also our guest of honor. So 2 hats he's wearing. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome I think it is safer for me to leave you with this microphone because this one has not performed. It has not delivered. I'll take this down.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay. As the moderator has mentioned, my duty this morning is mainly to deliver the message of the Honorable Minister of State for Transport, who has not been able to join us physically, but is with us in mind. And I'm therefore going to read his remarks, which are headed remarks by the Minister of State for Transport, Honorable Fred Byabakama, at the Aviation Week Stakeholders Engagement Breakfast held at Imperial Royal Hotel on Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. That's what I'm going to deliver, because although I would have wanted to say one or two things on my own, here there is a saying, engome nene bwevuga awali engome nene ntono tevuga, meaning where there is a big drum, the small one diplomatically is humbled to listen. So here we go. Honorable members of Parliament who are here, members of the Board of Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, including the chairperson who is also here, temukawulidde. Distinguished aviation industry stakeholders, members of the press, the keynote speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to engage with the aviation fraternity at this year's Stakeholders Engagement Breakfast, organized by Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, to share updates on the authority's milestones and plans for 2026. I commend the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority team for the outstanding accomplishments achieved in 2025, as highlighted by the Director General, and the international milestones emulated by the keynote speaker. Your dedication will be crucial in sustaining and further advancing these commendable achievements. Uganda's election to the ICAO Council for, I don't know whether I got it right, ICAO, not ICAO, ICAO Council for the 2025 to 2028 term reflects the trust and high expectations that the international community has placed in Uganda at a transformative time for global air transport. As a council member state, the state will engage with ICAO's 193 member states to advance ICAO's shared vision of air transport for all by 2050, one with zero fatalities and net zero carbon emissions, and to drive the cooperation, innovation, and talent needed to realize the vision. Uganda's hosting of the 48th East African Consultative Meeting on Facilitation of Air Transport in November 2025 further elevated the country's profile as a key player in the development of air transport and underscored Uganda's strong commitment to regional aviation cooperation, improved passenger facilitation, and enhanced air transport efficiency. I can see many of you who actively participated in that engagement. I can really see, yes, I can see you. The ministry has taken significant steps toward signing additional bilateral air service agreements with other countries to develop a robust air transport network that connects Uganda to major cities worldwide. The Director General highlighted the countries with whom we have recently signed bursaries. In that regard, I am pleased to note that the national carrier now serves 17 destinations, including London Gatwick. As the industry gets busier, even the challenges increase. I therefore urge all service providers to ensure timely resolution of customer complaints. The Ministry of Works and Transport places great importance to the aviation subsector, recognizing its crucial role in providing direct international access and promoting tourism, trade, and socio-economic development. We fully support all efforts aimed at enhancing the vibrancy and efficiency of air transport. The ministry also overseeing the development of Kabalega International Airport in Kabale, Hoima district to support the oil and gas sector. On completion next year, the airport will be handed over to the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority for operationalization. Following the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Uganda and the Sharjah Chamber of Commerce in June 2024, construction of Kidepo International Airport in Karamoja is ongoing. This public-private partnership has strengthened the relations with Gulf partners and created valuable opportunities for enhanced cooperation in investment and trade. As the authority prepares to open the newly completed 20,000 square meter passenger terminal building to the public, I urge all service providers operating at Entebbe International Airport to ensure that the services they render to passengers match the revamped infrastructure. In conclusion, I join the previous speakers in expressing my sincere gratitude to all industry stakeholders present for honoring the invitation to participate in this important engagement. I encourage you to continue upholding this spirit of collaboration. We look forward to your feedback. And for God and my country. Should I take this for good? Can I take this opportunity personally now? You know, I have left the minister's podium. I am aware I'm not going to see many of you from here in the next few days, weeks, or months. I want to grab the opportunity to wish every one of you a happy Christmas and a productive and prosperous new year, together with a very peaceful election season. I thank you for God and my country. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause. Actually, if you are seated at a table and you are not seated by company or organization, you just turn to your neighbor and really wish them a happy new year and prosperous 2026. Yes, just find out who they are, wish them. It is important. You know, we have about 14 or 15 days to the end of the year. So really, 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks to end the year. Okay. All right. So now we're going to have a bit of a Q&A. I had mentioned to you the small little cards at your table, which in case you have a question, just follow the prompts. If you have a smartphone, go ahead. If you have a katochi, we shall extend the microphone to you because the katochi may be complicated to address matters of QR codes. Right. I would like at this point in time to invite the following people in no particular order. They're going to be our panelists for this very short session that we're going to have. Our panel discussion should not go any longer than 30 minutes or so. And after that, my intention is to release you before lunch so that, but I also have some very good things to give to you. Civil aviation Yegabudde, so please don't rush. Don't rush to leave. I will tell you what we are giving out. And yes, checking again on our stakeholders who are here. Do we have Aero Innovations who deal with flight simulation? Hey, Kumbe, you are here the whole time. All right. Well done. Is there any organization I have left out? I'll just check again. Do we have DAS Handling Services? DAS, are you here? Wonderful, yes. Round of applause for DAS. We have Vine Air. Vine Air, are you here? Oh, Vine Air, well done. Okay. So I'd like to invite the following people to join me up here for a very brief panel discussion. Please don't leave, we have some goodies for you. When I say goodies, please trust me. Civil Aviation Yegabudde. Engineer Ronnie Barongo, please come and take a seat up here. Yes. We also have the Corporation Secretary, Ms. Helen Wenene. Please come and join us up here for this panel discussion that we are about to have. And let me allow the DJ to play an interlude just for people. Please take a seat up there. Okay. Right. We still have ample space there. Our keynote speaker, please. There were very many unanswered questions, and I'm very sure the people who would like to send those questions directly to you. And of course, not forgetting our DJ who is here to come and join us up on this platform. Thank you very much. So please take a seat, and you could test your microphone just to make sure that we are able to communicate with the audience. And then I can start with the questions that are before us. Okay, some of the questions that are coming in. These are questions that have come in from the technology that we are using this morning. And I will ask in no particular order. I think what we'll do is I'll just read out what I've received so far. And what you could do for me is you decide which one you're going to take on. And from the screen over there, I'm sure you can see the screen right before us. It has some of these questions as they're coming in. The first question is, what is the future of aviation training schools in Uganda? This is one question. Another Matovu who asked, as aviation regulator, what is UCAA doing about cancellation of flights with Uganda Airlines without advance warning? It causes financial and time loss to passengers. We also have another question here that comes. We need more awareness on your services together with tourism, mainly towards nationals. I will read the fourth and then we can start taking on since we are 4 panelists. The view from the Nzamizi provides a good view of the airport. Is it possible to consider, where did that question go?
No, it is,
Sorry.
it is there.
Oh, it is there, okay. Whoever's on the projector, please, could you just slow down a bit? Don't move. Stop scrolling. You're scrolling while I'm reading. Unless you want us to use the big screen. Okay, do you have plans to increase the number of flights to Entebbe Airport? We, the tourism sector, are working very hard to bring many tourists into the country. Anonymous. And how are we performing in relation to other countries in the region? Let's take a few of those, and then I'll come back to the questions that are being sent. Please utilize the QR code at your table. If you have a question, you can choose to remain anonymous if you feel like your question may expose your organization or your interests. Thank you. No political questions, I kindly beg. Thank you. None of these people here is standing for any elective office. So please, let's stay away from political questions. Thank you. All right. So who's ready to go?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not the only one who's ready to go.
Right.
Everyone here is ready to go.
Right.
But just to create some order, it is very, very good that the stakeholders are really giving us these questions and suggestions. And this is the purpose, of course, of this stakeholder breakfast meeting. I want to attempt the future of training schools in Uganda, but the rest will be answered also by colleagues here. The training schools in Uganda, of course, are regulated by Uganda Civil Aviation Authority. There are those that belong to government, for instance, the East African Civil Aviation Academy in Soroti. But there are so many private training schools in the country. And when you ask about the future, yes, we encourage as many private people as possible to start training institutions, but they must comply. They must, and I emphasize this, compliance with the standards of starting those training schools is extremely, extremely important, and they must. But there are also those which belong to government, like as I said, Sorot, East African Civil Aviation Academy, the one you call Sorot Flying School, owned by the East African community, by the way, but of course, now being managed by Uganda government. Again, but even then, it must also comply with standards of training institutions and other practices that would be recommended. At Civil Aviation Authority, we have it in plan to start a civil aviation training school, owned and funded by the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority to benefit the whole industry. And this we have been planning, and our planning, in fact, right now we are looking for an appropriate location where we can put the school. There are already seed money that we have put in our budgets to start the school. In fact, it will be even more prominent when we separate regulation from operation. Regulatory part will remain with the concerns of the school and developing the school. That's what I can say on this question. The other questions, of course, maybe if you allow me, I can ask. There was a question on government debt. Government debt, really, it is the whole government. I don't want to say this institution and the other. It won't make really any meaning, any so of no value to say the other government institution. When it is government, whether directly or an agency of government that is funded by government. But what we need to know is that the government is committed to paying this money, and all I was saying is that it should pay this money quickly, not sooner than later, so that we are able to use it in our development activities. There is a question about Uganda Airlines and the delaying of the flights. I would like Engineer Warongo to attempt that question. What should CA do on the delays of flights by Uganda Airlines? Because he's really a regulator. He stands at the centrality of the regulatory directorate is with Warongo. Please, with the director of safety, security and economic regulation. Engineer Warongo, please go.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, it seems it's my first time to speak to all of you, so it's an honor to greet you first. First of all, I'd like to thank the person who raised this question because it must be affecting many travelers who are traveling with the national carrier, Uganda Airlines. Maybe before as I answer this question, I'll first give what could cause flight cancellation. Flight cancellation could be caused by various factors. From the safety point of view, sometimes flight cancellation can be positive because it guarantees safety and of operations, and also from security point of view. But from the economic point of view, flight cancellations affect travelers' schedules. And the question is that is stated, what have we done as regulators? Because we value our customers, the passengers, they must be affected by these flight cancellations. We have had a number of flight cancellations, not only recently, but also in the past. Whenever there are cancellations, they are supposed to be reported to the regulator. And I'm glad that Uganda Airlines, who is also in our midst, they have reported all flight cancellations or any operations affecting their flight schedules. They have reported all. And in the past, we have actually investigated all the reasons leading to flight cancellations. Mainly, from the economic point of view, what causes these flight cancellations is mainly arising from capacity. Whether the airline has enough capacity to serve all the routes it's supposed to be having. I'm sure all airline operators have these challenges. However, there are supposed to be mitigation measures when you cancel a flight. Some of the mitigation measures is to have reserve capacity, but also to do cooperative arrangements with other airlines. This one we have advised the airline to have cooperative arrangements with the airlines on all the routes. I'm glad that now they have started doing that, but previously they were reluctant to have cooperative arrangements in terms of code sharing and interlining. That's the strong point where we have advised them. If they had made this, they had put this in place, our passengers wouldn't be having these problems. If there's any flight cancellation like on Lagos route, they would be having another operator flying to Lagos, maybe via different points, and they reschedule those passengers to that operator. And this is something we are going to follow up with the airline. Then the other reasons, of course, we are doing consumer protection, where we investigate and see where the airline was a bit reckless. Then we take them on board to really get a solution for these passengers. And some of the complaints we have received have been investigated, and some of them have been some of the consumers have been really, their issues have been addressed. Of course, it's painful, but at least it helps both the consumer and also the airline is able to either do a refund or do some other mitigation measures. The recent cancellations, the issues have been reported to us. Most of them are still under investigation. Others are touching other sensitive areas, which I cannot really mention here in the public. But once investigation is concluded, we are going to have a one-on-one meeting with the airline and resolve these issues once and for all. But also as advisors to government, we have also intervened and also advised the ministry on what measures they need to do on the airline as owners. And I'm glad that the ministry has been responsive in the recent past. Maybe that's what I can respond for the time being. Uganda Line, you are here. If there's anything I've not responded very well, you'll be able to come up and state it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We still have your questions coming through. If you have any question out there and you'd like to address it to any one of the panelists, by the way, you have an option to remain anonymous We'll just read from the board here, which is giving us these questions. The view from Samizi provides a good view of the airport. Is it possible to consider relocating the tower to that point to remove blind spots in communication? That is one question that was asked earlier. And then the other is
No, but
what?
maybe you need to answer one question first,
Okay, sure.
so that we have some orderly way of movement.
Sure. I don't know who's going to take on this one. Kindly advise. This is about the Nsamizi, the view from Nsamizi.
Well, maybe someone else should have answered this question, but I can attempt to do it since I don't see Engineer
Please.
Reyes here.
Please.
Engineer Reyes, can you come and attempt this question? So that you save me from all the troubles.
Thank you very much, DG. Thank you, stakeholders. The question that is being asked is related to the view from Samizi. Maybe for those who may not know, this is a hill just maybe 2 kilometers from the airport. It is true, it is a vantage point where you can visibly see the airport and elements of the airport. But the control tower is a specialized infrastructure at the airport, and its purpose is for the aerodrome. The location is actually supposed to be in proximity, as close as possible to the operating areas, the runways. And in fact, rather than going to Nsamizi, which is 2 kilometers away, the current air traffic control tower is to be, we've got a project where we are moving the air traffic control tower, even from the hill where it is right now, to very close to the airport, an area where maybe those who are familiar with the airport, where we have the tanks, the fuel tanks are being moved, and we're moving our control tower there. And the purpose is to have full visibility over a runway, over 2 runways, and the operating areas. So there's a move to improve the visibility from the control tower with a project that will locate it right next to the airport, Entebbe International Airport. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope that answers that question. Yes.
Thank you, Engineer Reyes, for answering this one very well, but I felt that there's something I need to add on. When you look at the view you are talking of optical line of sight. Optical line of sight in radio communication, you look at radio line of sight. When you look at optical line of sight, it's not necessarily the best radio line of sight. So from Nsamizi, you could see the airport very well. That's very good for optical line of sight. But when you come to radio propagation, you have to do analysis to confirm that it's better than the current state. So I believe those studies are being carried out to guide the best site for a radio line of sight in consideration of the surrounding environment, the lake, the buildings, and other radio communication systems. Thank you.
Right. There's an interesting question there. What is UCCA doing about unauthorized aviation training? Okay. Training institutions that are not ATQs, and how will you protect the public? I don't know who will answer this one.
That is the same person who is
The very same person. Okay, it's
Next
still
to
in
you.
line with. Seems like you are the target fire today. Line of target. Let's go.
Sorry, I need to get that abbreviation. You said 80 what? ATOS. Yes.
ATOS.
Can you repeat the question? I can't
looks
read
like
it.
it looks like a cue from over here.
Can you repeat it?
The question says about training schools which are not registered or which are not official. How are you protecting the public?
Okay, that's a very good question. A question I've also been asking myself and asking my colleagues in EXCO. What have we done to protect members of public on those schools which are not approved by the UCA. First of all, what we have done, we have published all the schools approved by the CA on the website. They are fully published, and also their training specs or training capabilities have also been published. That's what we have done. And also during our surveillance or through regular surveillance, if we find at training organizations offering training, aviation training, we tend to check what they are training. In most cases, what they are training is outside the regulatory scope. If we find they are training anything which is within the regulatory scope, we reprimand them in accordance with our regulations. Thank you.
Right. What is UCAA doing to attract more aircraft to the Ugandan register, given that Uganda has about 300 compared to Kenya's 2,000? Who
Unfortunately, the same person should be
It's
answering,
still-
but I will of course help him a little bit.
Okay, maybe we should ask another question so he can bank that one. He will respond to it. Could you scroll a little bit more? We need more awareness on services together with tourism, mainly towards nationals. I think that's just a comment. It's not a question per se. Okay. Why does Uganda not have district level airports similar to those found across Kenya? And I think this one I will ask to our representative in ICAO. Kosher carbon credit selling as revenue source for airport. How far are we? I'm seeing this is about I think about our carbon emissions and the SDGs. I think it's in line with that, and I wanted to throw it that way. If you feel you would like to have a go at it, Mr. Cabs, the one right next to you. The one right next to you.
They saying carbon emissions. What's
Kosher carbon credit selling as a revenue source for airports. How far are we? Is that a conversation within your jurisdiction?
Yeah, I can attempt.
Okay.
I don't know whether everybody knows what COSIA stands for.
No.
COSIA stands for Carbon Offsetting and Reduction in international aviation. Carbon offsetting and reduction. Carbon offsetting and reduction scheme. S stands for scheme in international aviation. So those are complicated words. Offsetting. So what are you offsetting? It is not expected that air transport can completely eliminate carbon emissions. So what is supposed to happen, especially for the airlines, because the airport, I will touch on that. It is the airlines which are burning these fuels that actually produce the carbon dioxide. So a limit was set for the time being. If you go beyond that limit, then you are supposed to go outside the aviation industry, maybe go to a forest, because the trees remove actually carbon dioxide. So the airline can go and pay someone who is growing trees to keep removing a certain amount of carbon dioxide and using the money which the airline has paid, because it is emitting more than it is supposed to emit. So that's what offsetting stands for. Now, reduction, of course, I have already mentioned one. Sometimes it is called sequestration. Reduction is grabbing carbon dioxide, which is already in the air, and putting it in the ground or storing it somewhere. There are some technologies which we don't have here, which can do that. But what we have that can do that are the trees. And that's why it is recommended that airlines can go to tree farmers and buy, pay in their schemes to offset the over and above their limit. Now, as at the airports also are supposed to do some mitigation measures to reduce carbon emissions. For instance, the air conditioning you are using is one. The ground handling equipment, they use a lot of fuel and they're not very efficient. That's another area. So
Where are we? Where are we in Uganda?
where are we?
In Uganda.
Honestly, someone on ground needs to help me on that. But I wanted you to know what the airport can do, which is reduce start using electric vehicles. And I am happy I've been reading about CAA joining with Kayora. That's one way. But at the airport also passenger buses, ground power units, all sorts of those should be either solar. You can actually put solar and then channel the power to the points so that the aircraft or the ground handling equipment can use the solar instead of using oil, fuel or electricity at the airport. So I don't know where the airport is, but that's what the airport can do. Of course, we have talked about SAF, for instance. SAF requires storage facilities at the airport. And maybe it will be produced at the airport, but I don't think you have the land to do that. So it will be produced somewhere and has to be brought to the airport and stored. So the airport can play a big role there. So, but I don't know what Entebbe Airport has done so far among those measures that they could take.
Thank you very much. There was a question. If you could just scroll back to a question there about something to do with the Company or Workers Act or something. You scrolled too quickly. I wanted to get to it so I can address it to Madame Wenene, who will give us a legal perspective on the matter. It's something to do with I think it was Alia. If you could just scroll back. If you look through, you will see as you're scrolling to that question, because I thought it was a very good question to ask. Especially, hello, yes, it had a legal angle to it that needed. No, not that one. However, it was something to do with how are you going to make sure, if I'm to paraphrase what I read, how are you dealing with the issue of having more locals involved in the aviation industry as opposed to expatriates? And it had more detail to it, but yeah, that's what I remember capturing. Yes, if you continue further down, I think it was quite a number of questions have come in. Thank you very much for participating, the people who have sent in. I'll just read two more questions, and then we wind up this session here. No. Okay, I'll just read another one. That is, since we're not at it yet. The DG mentioned that earlier CAA will be starting up an aviation school. For what trainings? That is one question. There's another question here. This again to I think it's in the legal framework here. Or is it possible? Sorry, is it possible as part of the requirements to renew operational licenses? They need to give statistics of Ugandans they are employing. I think it's in line with the other question. And then the question before that, if you could just scroll down a little bit. What are no up, just there. What are we doing to align UCAA mandate with the Employment Act to see operators giving more priority to Ugandan personnel? I think that is the question. I'll hand over to you. Yes. Since it's about Ugandan personnel, I think it goes beyond just being an HR concern, in reference to the Employment Act. Yes, sure.
As I mentioned, this industry is strictly regulated. And earlier on, the DG and Mr. and Engineer Barongo were talking about that schools must meet certain requirements. And those requirements are not set by CAA. They are actually set. So, yes, these requirements are not set by CAA. CAA has to comply by an international requirement. If you don't want to comply with it strictly, you do better. You make the situation more stringent, more than what ICAO sets. Then you can do what you like, but you cannot do lower than what ICAO does. So you cannot employ an unqualified pilot because he's a Ugandan, or employ an unqualified engineer or air traffic controller because he's a Ugandan. I agree with you, I can see the sense of nationalism. Ugandans should be helped to train, to qualify for those jobs. But until they are trained and qualified, CAA cannot oblige, especially in those technical areas. If it is maybe in administration, you can close your eyes, those are support departments, but in the technical, it is strictly on competence. And I would hesitate to suggest that the government should make a policy to mandate air operators to take on Ugandans who do not qualify. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just to add to what Cabs has said, has said that the aviation industry or CAA is guided by ICAO, in that most importantly, when we are amending our act, we must address those concerns which are aviation specific. However, that notwithstanding, we also take concern to the law governing the country. The Employment Act, for example, when we are coming up with our human resource manual, we must comply, and we do always comply with the requirements of the Employment Act. So there are different aspects within which, as an authority, we comply with the laws of the country, not the Employment Act in isolation, because we still, much as it's an international organization to which we subscribe to, we also must be in line with the laws of the country. But just to add a little bit, when this is for the regulator, but when requests are being made for grant of licensing to operators, there is a requirement to which they provide how many Ugandans are being employed. So there is that bit indirectly, really, they must give information for us to know that much as, because once it's registered, it becomes a Ugandan operator, it is also employing Ugandans. I hope I've given some light to it.
Maybe to add a little bit more, all the time, the preference is Ugandans. And in accordance with the spirit of the law. But in the technical areas, that you can do to that extent, but you cannot bring in not qualified.
So what we should be doing is to help Ugandans to train, to qualify for those jobs. And that's why schools like Solot Flying School should be helped to do their part and do it very well. ICAO will not tell you don't employ this. For them, it doesn't matter who it is. They will just tell you the pilot should have the following. Now, also we must bear in mind that because Uganda has chosen and any country has chosen to join ICAO, it means your laws have to line up with those of ICAO. That's what international treaties do. Once you join, you cede your own laws. If you can't, and it is so strong in your mind, then you quit that organization. So yes, we have to try to help Ugandans, and that is the best we can do. But there is that limit of competence and qualifications, which if they don't have, you simply cannot employ them.
Thank you very much. What we're going to do now is just have a quick 1 minute wrap up of what your take of 2025 and something you'd like to give to as a takeaway for the people who have come for this stakeholders engagement breakfast. It's 1 minute, and after that we'll invite our guest of honor. We'll have a group photo, and then we can wind up today's event. So that's the only bit remaining with the program. So your 60 seconds, 1 minute wrap up, whatever you want to express. Yes, we'll start from this side.
Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you very much, our stakeholders and general members of the public. I want to thank you for attending this Aviation Stakeholders Workshop. Indeed, it has been a good forum to showcase what we are doing and also to receive your feedback. There are a number of questions which you have put on the online platform. We are going to respond to all of them formally. The answer MPA will advise on how you will receive the responses. We're going to formally respond to all the questions which have been raised here through our public affairs. What I wanted to stress in this workshop, you heard that the safety rating and security rating of Uganda has improved. We are at 72% in safety. We are at 81% in security. That one, we don't take it for granted. It is through your hard work and our hard work. And that's why you see now the questions which are coming are very positive. More operators want to come into the country. More personnel wants to be licensed by us. More aircraft want to be registered. Because once you are registered in Uganda here, everywhere, it will be easier for you to fly anywhere. Our rating, because of our safety and security rating. So I want to encourage you that we continue working together so that we uphold the standards we have set and become better and better and improve the experience of flying customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For me is to thank you because we are now in the afternoon for coming early and staying with us this long. This shows the attachment of importance to this program. Also, the take home, as said, we need to have more awareness so that we encourage our young students to take interest in the aviation. And this, as I think this was presented by the DG, we have interested aviation in schools and we are paying focus on the girl child. We believe by this, if we start early, the right skills will be obtained so that we are relevant. As CAB says, aviation is highly regulated. We cannot bend the requirements, but if we start early, we can get the right skills to take up the jobs and support the aviation industry. So really just to say aviation is about regulation, and for the operators is to just encourage ourselves to comply because there is no two way out of it. Thank you very much.
I also want to thank you so much for being very patient And I can imagine you came here, you decided to give up your whole day for this purpose, so you are interested. We still have a long way to go. What is important is, yes, as Mr. Engineer Barongo has said, Uganda has a good position, but there is still room for improvement. But in any case, it takes a lot of effort to keep that position. There is a big country from the West. It had a score of 85. In their recent audit, they dropped to 68. And it is a big, one of the seven, the G7, they are called. Yeah, so it can happen. But with efforts, you can do wonders. I think Uganda has so much to offer, but we must find a way of taking our story to the decision makers to prioritize these areas. Earlier on, I told you the contribution of Qatar Airways could be about $3 billion into their economy. When you have that because of an airline, you build the hospitals, you build the schools, you build other things. And maybe many of you have not gone to Qatar. Qatar has a population of only less than 400,000 people. But it attracts those many people, 30-something million, to go through them because of what they are doing. Why can't we do it? The last question, which you touched on, Roger, was tourism. What is CAA doing with the Travel Bureau Board or whatever? That is a good question. One time I was in South Africa, there's a lady called Jacinta. She used to be area manager for Uganda Airlines, and she stayed there. She's in tourism. So I asked her, Jacinta, where do you take the tourists? She said, I send them to Nairobi, Tanzania. And I asked, why are you not sending them to our country, your country? He said, Cabs, I would love to do that. But if I have 500 tourists going to Uganda, which company shall I deal with? Which company can handle 500 tourists at the same time? Are there buses? I am not sure. Are there? So the question is, we cannot, yes, we are endowed, but we have to change, think outside the box, how we are going to exploit this endowment. UAE exploited Emirates, and now everybody goes to UAE. I don't know. Why can't we do the same? Helping Ugandans is very important. Of course, management has also to do their own role. I'm so very happy that Uganda government has approved some more money to enhance their route network capacity. And I think that is a very important thing, and we should help Uganda Airlines to become a strong local-based airline. So thank you so much, and I'm so very happy to have spent this morning with you.
Thank you very much. I want to really sincerely thank the chief guest, the board members, and all of you stakeholders, because it would take, we could have arranged, but we hadn't, and have nobody responding. That also happens in some areas. So thank you very much. And for, of course, contributing. I can see this line of questions and suggestions shows an alert audience, and one that is really giving us, following up what we are talking about. I think all what we have been doing, you have seen that aviation is about safety, security, and sustainability of any civil aviation system. And you can see that actually doing safety and security right translates into good economic gains. It is not about spending in a bottomless pit and you don't see what you are getting out. You can see good scores leading to good confidence, leading to more registration of more airlines, registration giving out more licenses to operators, even individuals. And this is the way to go. The fundamentals in this country are already set because of those scores and the improvements in infrastructure. We are already setting the fundamentals. And of course, we are also working on even strengthening the regulator in the separation process. So the ball is in the courts of the Uganda stakeholders to take advantage of these facilities to renew their commitment to the industry and make it work in a way we currently in its management are looking at. We can't do this alone, as I have told, as we have been saying all through. We have to move with you all through. And so far, we are doing that. Those of the operators who are still having challenges, please, we are available to help each other because this is our industry. There is no day, absolutely, where UCA will sit back and leave the industry. Any operator to struggle, if it is in our means that we can help. Just take it from me. All through, we want to be with you and do it. In any case, you have heard that when ICAO comes here to audit, it is auditing the state. The state in this matter is represented by the civil aviation regulator, the system, the oversight system. But as you know, the regulator does not work alone. So the whole country is being audited, but the frontliner or the person on the front line is the civil aviation authority who is in charge of oversighting the system. So we'll do everything possible to make that oversight smooth through the operators, and please use us as much as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for our panelists. And another round of applause for all of us who are participating. You have done very well. Before we go any further, please allow me to recognize the Vice Chairperson for Physical Infrastructure Committee of Parliament, Honorable Tony Owane, who is here. Let's give him a round of applause. He's right at the back there. Yes. Thank you for being part of this.
Actually, I want to add there that Honorable Tony Owane has been very, very, very instrumental in helping us to get the funding to be understood in Parliament. We are glad that you have come, Honorable Tony Owane. Even Honorable Mara was with us last evening when we were receiving a Malawi Airlines into Uganda. So we want really to appreciate the kind of assistance and commitment the committee, especially members of the infrastructure committee, have on the civil aviation system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We have just one more item on the agenda, and that is the group photo. We'll start with the panelists. The panelists will stand, and then I'll invite our guest of honor to come and join you in this photo. And for the rest of us, please make sure you don't leave before you have received that special package from Civil Aviation Authority. And thereafter, cameraman, please come and be a director of photography here. Tell us what to do, where we stand. And when that's for the panelists. And right after the panelists, I'll invite our guest of honor to join in. And after that, it shall be networking, departure at leisure. Thank you so much for making time to be here with us. Our guest of honor, please come and join us for this group photo. Create some space at the center. And the cameraman can call the shots. Yeah. Yes, and right after that, I'll invite the board members to join. This one is Okay, right there. Those are 4 photos. When you are done, I'm going to invite the board members to come and join in this photo. Our board members, please. Welcome to join in this group photo. Yes. Honorable Awani, I expected, I even don't know who sat you at the back there, because there was a seat prepared for you at the front, but I can understand. Okay. If we have any representatives from tourism, representative from our other partners, stakeholders, the stakeholders engagement breakfast, December 16, 2025. Back in the days, we used to worry about a camera running out of film. Now we worry about a camera having full battery at all times. So it's a charging issue. Other stakeholders and captains of the industry, please come join us. Cameraman, we're waiting for you, sir. Quickly. Chusa Amanda, quickly. Yes. Immigration. You belong to this photo as well. We can also take advantage of the staircase. Right. So our guest of honor will move to the front a little bit more, and then we can do a second line behind. Somewhere here, yes, and then we can utilize the staircase. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite some more stakeholders to come and join us in this photo. Please, if you're one of the tour operators, where our friends from the airlines, come here. Where is Qatar? Where is Emirates? Where is KLM? Where is, yes, very good. There's ample space here for us. Just find a spot on the staircase. The photographer will direct us accordingly. We can take the stair if you want to be. There's another line here. You can come up here. You'll probably have better. The General Manager Entebbe, please come. Yes. Premier Airlines, where are you?
Okay. Is there anyone who's feeling left out? When I say feeling left out, I'm referring to you have not been represented anywhere. There is no evidence that you attended this event. Please come. This is important. We have to give accountability and say, I was there on that day, on the 16th of... thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to our guest of honor, who's also the chairman board. And just one more.
I think it would not be fair to go without recognizing our staff who retired from UCA but have come back and are with us here. JBY, I have seen you, the only, and we want to really take a picture with them. Madam Namukwaya, I have seen you here. Godfrey Matovu, and any other that I may not have seen. Charles Mwirumu, yes, yes. Please come over, because please, your intelligence. Take a picture with the guest of honor. No, there are not many now. Give me the one.
Thank you. And after that, we'll have the anthems, and we'll then mix and mingle, network, and departure at leisure. As those photos are being taken, if you feel there's need for you to take any photos, you can ask anyone you had intended to take a photo with to do so. For now, we're going to have the anthems. The anthems, and then it will be networking and departure at leisure. Let's all rise for the anthems. We all rise for the anthems. Thank you so much for making time to be here with us at the Stakeholders Engagement Breakfast. It has been a wonderful Tuesday morning. And I think the weather is transitioning very well. I don't know how it is in Entebbe, but yes, the sun has all of a sudden switched to very windy, breezy, cooler temperatures. As I'm saying all this by the way, waiting for the anthems. So, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. God bless you. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from Uganda Civil Aviation.